Hi and welcome to another teacher training video from elttraining.com. I'm Jo Gakonga and this month we're going to continue with our theme of teaching receptive skills and look at teaching listening. I've split this video into two, but don't miss the second one because actually I think it's the most interesting. In this first one we'll look at the process of what's called top-down listening, and in the second we'll look at some strategies for helping your learners with bottom-up listening. So let's make a start. As I've mentioned before, receptive skills consist of both reading and listening. So a good question to start us off is this: are reading and listening similar skills? If not, what are the differences between them? Why don't you just pause me for a minute and have a think about this? Well, there are obviously a lot of differences between them. One's on paper. We learn to do these things in our first language differently. We can get information a lot more quickly from reading. But let's focus on the things that cause problems for language learners. So one of the main ones is that the written language is much more standardised than the spoken language is. Spelling is largely regular, but accents can vary quite a lot. We also have problems of weak forms. So where are you going becomes where are you going? And other connected speech issues like that. In the written form as well, the word boundaries are really obvious. There's spaces between them, but this isn't true in speech. Words often get pushed together, they blur into each other. You might not think that's true, but if you listen to what you say closely, you'll see that it is. The other major problem for learners, of course, is that written text is permanent, so you can go back and look at it again. But not so with speech. It's here, then it's gone, it's very ephemeral. So this can be really difficult for learners. They're struggling to follow and process that language in real time, and it's difficult, and this can cause anxiety, I think, sometimes. So let's look at the things that help us to understand when we listen. These fall into two categories. So there's our background knowledge of something, that's the topic, how it fits into what we know about the world, the genre of the text, all that kind of thing. And then of course there's our knowledge of the language itself, so the sounds, the vocabulary, the grammar of the language. So these two things respectively are often called top-down processing and bottom-up processing. So let's start by looking at top-down. Let me give you an example of how this might work. So if I don't know you and I come up to you and smile and hold out my hand and say, "Habari, ni naitwa Jo Gakonga. Unaitwa nani?" You'd probably guess, even if you speak no Swahili at all, from the context, probably from my name, that I'm introducing myself and I'm asking you for your name. So this is an example of top-down processing. You probably don't know any of those words except my name, but given the context, you'd probably guess what I was saying. So top-down processing makes use of what you already know: the situation, the structure of the language, the content of what it's going to be. This can be in the form of scripts, similar to the one I looked at before, but also something like this. So if you walk up to this stall, you can probably predict how the conversation's going to go. Can I help you? I'd like some oranges, potatoes, whatever. How many would you like? Half a kilo? How much is that? Etc, etc. So it's a buying transaction script. It's probably pretty similar all over the world. So this will help you with your listening comprehension because you can use your knowledge of these kind of scripts to help you to understand what's said, because you're expecting what's going to be said. So the other way that we use top-down processing is our content schemata. We've mentioned this before, so it's all about what you know about the world. If I say horse, you know a lot about horses. So you can use this knowledge about horses and what you know they do and what they look like to help you predict what might be said about them. So clearly this is really important. This top-down processing is very important, and it does make life much easier for learners if they've got an idea of what they're going to listen to. But it does raise this question: are we really teaching listening or not? Are we just practicing it? So one answer to this, to give more of a focus to actually teaching listening skills, is what we call bottom-up processing. And I'll show you an example of what I mean by this now. So this sentence is a very famous one by Chomsky, and he devised this sentence as an example of something which is grammatically correct but really doesn't have any meaning. So you understand all of those words, I assume, so you can process it from the bottom up. You understand all those things, but it still doesn't make any sense because there is no top-down meaning to process. It's senseless. So what problems are there with this bottom-up processing, and how can we help our learners to improve their skills in this area? If you're interested in that, then just click on the video link below and I'll tell you some more about that. See you then.